Hey there, CalCar and friends! So today we're going to do our September seasonal check-in, which is where we go around and kind of talk about where we're at the farms. And I'm sure when you guys, if you have kids, you already know this, but definitely summer is winding to a close. I don't have any kids, but I know this time of year when I come out in the morning, it has that smell about it that reminds me of back to school. And of course, it's September, so on September 22nd, we will finally be closing our summer and entering fall. And that means lots of different things around the farm. We started off here with the Bibulus. We're going to start pollinating these. I know I've been saying that, but there's many things to do around here. But I'm going to pollinate all these and make a ton of seeds in a second here. And speaking of seeds, now is the time to collect so many seeds of temperate plants. So the Darlingtonia seeds are ripening, Sarracenia, flytraps, temperate sundews. We have dewy pine seeds to collect over there. And so I bet you if you went out and looked at your carnivorous plant garden, you might find some seeds for you to collect as well. So we're going to talk a little bit throughout this about collecting them, and then we'll do a deeper dive video about that too, about collecting seeds. Also, it's time to start just gently sprinkling your tuberous Drosera, and we'll go look at our dead pots over there that are super dry, but September is usually when I start to get those wet, so we'll be doing that this week, which is always exciting. I love to see the tuberous sundews coming up as most of the other temperate plants that we have start to kind of come to a gentle close. The flavas are starting to slow down. Whereas other Sarracenia, and we'll look at this as well, other Sarracenia like Rubra, Aleda, and of course Leucophylla are just putting up some of their best pictures right now. So that's going to start happening over the next couple of weeks. And mostly our temperate Drosera are starting to go dormant. If they haven't already, they're going to be dying back to their hibernacula, dumping a ton of seeds, and then dying back to their hibernacula. We could check in on those because some of them are still looking pretty good, but don't freak out if yours are starting to go dormant already, especially if it was hot. We finally be getting a little bit of heat here at the farm. It's been a very cool summer for us, but these last 3 days have been in the low 90s, which, is pretty hot. I know it's not as hot as some of you have been dealing with. Daniela braved a Labor Day to come in here in the heat and film this seasonal check-in. So let's go check out some of the things that I've been talking about. So we'll go check out the collection Sarracenia as well, but I thought I'd stop over here because these Leucophylla are just looking so gorgeous. These are actually divisions that you guys can order and buy, which probably makes them even slightly more exciting to you. We actually had one person say something along the lines about our collection plants, about how they don't care to see our specimen plants, and I thought that was so funny. Again, we're not doing this to show off, we're always doing this to be inspirational. But if you get sick of seeing the collection plants, these ones are actually up for sale on the webpage right now. These here are our Sumter County, Georgia Leucophyllas that we've been selling, multiple clones of, and I have to say I can't remember a time in recent memory that they've looked so beautiful and nice. What's interesting about these Georgia ones, and that's the last location in Georgia where these plants grow, but they have these very kind of like upturned, roughly little lids that I think are really attractive and unique. This is another reddish clone over here that I got from Bob Hanrahan when I was like 19 years old, and we're selling divisions of those. And you can see almost every single one is slightly different. And of course, I'll talk about this again, right? I talk about it all the time. It's one of my all-time favorite stories, probably all in nature. But the reason that these Leucophyllas are putting up their very best pictures now, while so many others are going dormant and getting ready for fall, is they have timed their best pictures for the brightest full moon of the year, which is the harvest moon, and it's coming on up. It'll be this next full moon, and in that full moon, that bright, intense moonlight reflects off of these white pictures like lanterns and draws in moths and other insects that are attracted to light. There's just something so amazing about plants hunting with reflected moonlight. It's one of my all-time favorite stories. Anyways, let's go look at some other plants real quick. So like I said earlier, September, there's a lot of seed collecting going on. which is always super exciting for me. I love crossing flowers and just picturing all those pollen tubes going in there and fertilizing and making amazing seeds. It's such a fun thing. And of course, the the fruition of that are literally fruits full of seeds. And so I wanted to look at the Darlingtonia seeds over here since they're so cool and charismatic. We'll be doing a deep dive on collecting carnivorous plant seeds, but I just want to do this like one variety to kind of give an example and talk about another one of my favorite interesting carnivorous plant factoids, and somewhat disputed, so controversial as well. So Darlingtonia are in the Sarraceniaceae Sarracenia family. They're related to Sarracenia and Helianthera. All Sarracenia are east of the Rockies, and this is the only member of the family that somehow made it over into California, Oregon, probably millions of years ago. And what's interesting is once these little flowers open up as little nodding lanterns, kind of like that. You can see this one wasn't pollinated, and so it's still staying like that. But these ones that I did pollinate, they turn upward and kind of form this little cup, which traps a lot of the seeds inside. You can see that the sides have split, but lots of the seeds, like half of them at least, get stuck inside, which is just kind of interesting. And then these scapes stay up like that. And Peter noticed a long time ago, I'll cut this one up so I can show this next plant. I can snip it with scissors. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I like a piece of paper to collect and deal with seeds. And then we can usually just tap these all out. Oh, there's a spider.
Tapped a spider.
It's funny, when I collect seeds, there are so many little spiders hiding in Sarracenia and other pods. It's so funny. So I'm just going to kind of break this up with my hand. Try to keep it in the shade so it's not wiping it out. There's lots and lots of seeds in there, which is kind of interesting because usually seeds are all about distribution. Like, they really want the seeds to get free of the fruit as fast as possible generally so they can get spread around somewhere new. So much about seeds, as gentle as they look, is all about conquest of new environments. So the hope is always that some of these little seeds will get far away, not end up just at their parents' feet to compete with them. It's taking a second, but there's always this different like chaff, seed pods, old anthers, and stuff like that to clear away. Now you can see probably if these seeds look really different from Sarracenia seeds. They're kind of club-shaped, and they have these tiny, tiny little protrusions on there. They're not quite like a burr, but they're definitely the kind of thing that could get stuck in an animal's fur, I feel like. And, use my fur as an example. You can see how the seeds kind of get tangled in with my hair because of that. And no one's ever proved this for a science fact, but Peter always thought that these little barbs were in there. I can't even get them out of my hair. But these little barbs were in there to help them get caught in animal fur. Maybe like bears, and because this distribution would have happened a really long time ago, maybe megafauna were involved somehow, because that's an interesting thought, is sometimes old animals that interacted with things don't even exist anymore, But it would make a lot of sense because these guys have to find areas that are really wet and cool. In Northern California, I can tell you, there'll be, right now, it's 100 degrees in most of Northern California, and there's like manzanitas and dry chaparral, and you have to sometimes travel miles and miles and miles to find other wet areas which would be suitable. And so it would make sense if these got stuck in bear's fur that they would come off. And I think that's part of the reason why they're not a crazy burr, is because if it gets stuck in the fur forever, then that's not really helpful either. So it might be like a mechanism where it gets gently stuck in animal hair, like a bear, and then when it wallows in the water, maybe that's how they find the new suitable environment. And I will say, when you see Darlingtonia in the wild, they are like, you'll see them in a lot of suitable spots, and you have to wonder, how did they get there, And the thing that I pointed out about this is how the seeds get stuck in there. I don't want to lose many seeds, but I think they kind of get stuck on there maybe on purpose. Maybe as the animals walk by, it's springing out like that, and some of the seeds are getting stuck in the fur, and it kind of gives it an opportunity to do that. Because if it was down on the ground, obviously that's going to be way less likely to happen. This is all largely conjecture, and until we get some biologists to go comb bear fur, to find seeds in there or prove it some other way. It is really hard to know. But one last thing I'll say is the Darlingtonia expert Harry Tryon, who used to live up there, he still does up in Del Norte County, although now he's getting up in years. But before that, he would take us around to all these different Darlingtonia sites. And there was this one of the most horrifying roads I've ever driven on in my entire life was Harry driving us down this Tallahassee old timber road to take us to this place he called Bear Wallows. And I'll never forget it. This is like 25 years ago. And that road is totally washed out and you can't get there anymore. But there was bear fur on all the trees all around this area. And then there was these big hot tub shaped wallows all in a chain along this creek. And each one was circled in Darlingtonia. And of course, you know, that doesn't prove anything, but I think it's interesting and it could definitely be true. So yeah, so I've collected these in a piece of paper. I'm gonna get all of the rest of this out, make sure I don't miss any of these little seeds and gather up all these other pods too. And then we'll store them in the fridge and you can store them for up to like 5 years. Lots of these we're gonna sow in the winter and stratify and all that. Anyways, lots more seeds to collect. So let's go check out some other stuff. So one of the most beautiful things in Sarracenia are the late season pictures on Rubra subspecies albumensis, which are just starting to pop up right now. There's another one just popping open, and they're just so yellow, really beautiful. And as they get going, like this one here, you can see they just actually have a really elegant form to them as well. But all the other Rubras are doing the same thing, obviously looking different, but we have nice big Golfensis pictures coming up. These are the Rubras, and they have very, very thin laying down little pictures throughout most of the spring, but now they're starting to put up, they're small still, but these really beautiful pinstriped pictures there. These are Viatorum, or what we used to call Rubra ancestral before Barry named that off as its own subspecies. The Jones eyes are over here, mega super endangered. Jones eye is very, very endangered. Albumensis probably even slightly more so. And then we have the wary eyes, which also have really beautiful late summer pictures like those there. There's a little hoverfly just sipping the nectar there as well. Anyways, I love how the Rubras look. And of course, closely related, Sarracenia alata is also still making really beautiful pictures. And that's something that Daniela talks about a lot in her videos, is this idea that it's good to grow a lot of variety in your Sarracenia collection because it really does extend the season. Oh, and let's pop over here because the minors are also still really looking great. I would say that minor and Psittacina, they definitely keep making pictures later. I wouldn't necessarily say they have like spring and late summer pictures, but they're a little bit later anyways, and so they're really starting to shine now too. And of course, for those of you who don't know very much about these plants, this lid slopes down and is dark red underneath to block the light from the entrance, which is up underneath there. And those white spots aren't just spots, those are actually windows. So it allows the light to shine through those white patches, and when the little bug is sipping nectar and trying to decide where to fly away to, it tends to fly towards these windows and not out. Just like in your living room, the fly just keeps hitting the window over and over again. Well, they evolved to do that like millions of years ago before humans even thought about having windows, which is really cool. I'm excited that I'm getting lots of my favorite plant stories into this check-in today. These are some of my favorite plant stories. Oh, and another thing to mention is here's Oreophylla, not looking so hot. Sarracenia oreophylla. Oreophylla means mountain loving. It is what is believed to be the most ancestral species, coming from mostly northern Alabama and kind of a few other states around that area, but mostly that area these days. Again, very, very endangered, so it's hard to know what their original range might have been. But all of that being said, because of their higher elevation, they tend to be like a cooler plant coming up early in the spring and looking really glowy and beautiful then. But now as we start to get these hot days, they're definitely starting to go all brown, and they're always the first ones to do that. Still a beautiful, beautiful species, and I love growing them for their spring presentation, but don't freak out if your Oreophylla is starting to go dormant already. I think we are all feeling the edges of fall in the air. I wanted to check in with these. We're still just starting to get our autumn pictures on the Luke collection because it has been cooler, but these are some of the very whitest of Leucophylla alba that I have ever made. I crossed two very white alba yellow flowered leucophylla that we've grown here for years, about 3 years ago. I think these are about 3 years old. And they're really showing off this year. So super, super white. And of course, I'll cross those together to make even whiter ones. And if you guys, any of you got our super select Leucoalba yellow flowers, we sold a few of those where I was just pulling out the ones that were mega white, but I didn't really have the space to keep. You're probably seeing pictures like this too. So keep an eye out for those when we do sell them, because they're truly fantastic and most people aren't growing albas like that at all. The fly traps are still looking pretty fantastic. You can tell, I think I talked about this last time, but we have some little shiny seeds in there to collect over here too. Daniela and I are going to film a video coming soon all about seed collection of the various different genera that we grow here. So definitely check that out. But in the meantime, I just wanted to show how beautiful they are. There are a few black traps happening. I talked about that last time. And of course, by around Halloween, we expect these all to be pretty died back. So go out there and feed your fly traps. If they're not catching bugs like ours are here, it's great to feed them some crickets or some mealworms, live ones preferably, because all that energy that they get, any excessive energy they get now, is going to get stored in that pseudobulb and go into even more pseudobulbs over the winter, so they can come off twice as big. So if you want a fun late summer thing to do, why don't you go out there and feed all your fly traps and appreciate how beautiful they are. Another exciting late season thing for us here at the farm are the Lilium iridole are starting to flower. This is a critically endangered lily from Alabama. Super, super beautiful, and I love seeing them flower every single year. It's so interesting how their anthers just hang loose like that. And we've started to sell a few divisions of these. We're hoping to have seedlings available in the not too distant future. Maybe next year, we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, I just wanted to show off the lilies as they're getting started. You can see there's gonna be whole clouds of lily flowers, because every single one of these little pickles is gonna be a beautiful lily flower over the next couple of weeks. So we were just on the way to the tropical house, and Daniela wanted to stop off and have a look at the chicken coop. We have some new members in the coop in the far corner over there. The amazing looking Roadrunner looking chicks, we call those our punk rock chicks. They're actually silver lace black Polish. So beautiful speckly, I almost said foliage, feathers. And then you can see they have their crazy punk rock hairdos, which are just going to get like 2 or 3 times bigger as they mature. And then the little black guys over there are Morans. So those are going to lay an egg that's like so deep chocolate brown, like a Hershey's bar. And we really want to have all the rainbow eggs. So we have our usual cacophony of regular chickens, but then those 7 over there are brand new ones. And we have more silkies on the way as well. So always adding to the chicken here, the chicken flock at the farm here as well.
Somehow we're chicken farmers now.
Yeah, lots of eggs. So I know you guys have been excited about our Nepenthes truncata red by Edwardiana giants. We're super excited about them. Just between you and me, I kept one of every single clone because I think you would do the same thing, and we have the space. And here we have everybody starting to grow out and looking really spectacular because we used a nice red truncata in this. You can see there's some really dark coloration, starting to get that flared peristome with the deep ridges. I would say at about this size is where you start to get an idea of what a Nepenthes might actually look like. But as they mature, this peristome is going to get bigger and better. You can see this is one of our bigger ones. That's K1. I don't know which one this is. I should have checked beforehand. It doesn't say, but there's another nice one there too. We had a few seed-grown ones as well, so that might be one of the seed-grown ones. But at any rate, you know, for those of the uninitiated, we're expecting to get pictures like this big on this cross. Dark red, flared peristome with the typical Eddie peristome. And since it's right over here, we might as well, let's just smoothly walk over. Let's see. There's lots of nice things happening over here, but this huge Edwardiana picture is so crazy. That just makes my inner child totally sing. This is a plant that I thought I might never even really see in my lifetime, let alone grow a big, perfect, beautiful specimen like that. Our Edwardsianas tend to flower fairly constantly, so you can see here I've got more pollen to collect, and we sometimes send that out to make more amazing seeds. We have Helianthera McDonaldi over there, a beautiful venation inside, really starting to love its new home. Here we have some new, little new things from Andreas Westuba I ordered not that long ago. Of course, this huge, almost 30-year-old Nepenthes lowi is worth taking a look at. Oh, it's so beautiful.
That's some fun orchids, actually.
Oh yeah, these are some little fun orchids of Tom's. I've got the Dendrobium. And then hanging in Daniela's way are these really beautiful Vogeli upper pitchers. They're so cool. I love the little bulge in the throat. And there's something so crazy about these. I wonder if there's not some animal interaction with these that we don't know about because they're so woody. This part is like, it's like a bamboo skewer. So I don't know what that's all about, but it seems interesting. Anyways, some nice things happening over here. Again, this Truncata ovata is really showing off. And I think this is Truncata jacqueliniae, also looking great. It's just so fun to see the Nepenthes finally looking super good again. With all of our transition, there were some moments for all of us. The Helianthera is starting to look really good too. This is Helianthera ionaceae. That's one of my favorite species. It has these big flared pitchers, usually lots of really cool hairs, orangey coloring. But yeah, this one's just starting to look really super nice. This is the Cliff Dodd clone. It's actually Mike Wilder's plant that came out with him. But just a big, beautiful Helianthera ionaceae. Who wouldn't like this? I was just moving some plants around and I found this beautiful baby little garter snake. I think even those of you who don't like snakes can probably agree that this is one of the sweetest, cutest little things you've ever seen. Try and get him gently down in my hands. Maybe not. But yeah, so this time of year, we definitely see all kinds of these little garter snakes being born in the nursery. Also lots of little fence lizards. But that's one of the things I love about being a steward of a huge collection like this, is all the amazing little animals that also end up calling this home. And these guys came off the Laguna, the wetlands that were not far from here, and they actually hunt little frogs. So there's thousands of frogs in here too. So this little tiny little snake is probably on the lookout for frogs or any little stunty tadpoles that might still be in trays. But for those who love these little creatures, I'm sure you're enjoying it. You know, look away if you hate snakes. I don't understand why, because they're so cute. The pings are all starting to look pretty good. I'm still in the process of starting to transplant all of them. But I wanted to check out these Pinguicula ignata. These are ones that we made here on the farm through our whole breeding program. So these little guys here are our green ghost. And you can see it's green for ignata, but it does get a little bit of blushing around the leaves. But compared to this other sibling of it, you can see it's a much lighter plant. And they do have beautiful little kind of pale flowers with a little lavender tinge. You can see around the outside of the petals there. But if you haven't added a ignata to your collection, it's definitely time. One of the magical things that happens every fall around here is watching all of these dry, dead pots turn into beautiful pots of sundews. Every single one of these pots is a different species in our Tuberous Drosera collection. Tuberous because they go summer dormant when it gets hot in Western Australia where they mostly grow, although there's some in other places. And we keep them bone dry for all of summer long. And then just now in September, we're gonna start sprinkling these and come back in a month and see how amazing, how quickly these fill up with sundew pots from the little bulbs that are buried inside. And some of our pygmy sundews are flowering today, which I always love to see. This is Omissa bipulchella. It's a little hybrid here that we've sold for 1,000,000 years. If you're looking for a pygmy sundew to start off with, that's probably the best one. It's a larger one, very, very vigorous, tends to roll into other pots and pop up there as well. And you'll get these flushes of beautiful little pink flowers when you get full pots like that. One of the things I love about pygmy sundews is full carpeted little pots of glistening leaves and then just bouquets of beautiful flowers. They're so wonderful. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing what's going on the farm and where things are headed now in September. I wanted to finish off with our Leucophylla collection, which is just now starting to send up its fall pictures like I talked about before. And remember to appreciate all of the seasonality of nature and in our own lives. I think it's really easy to focus on the fun and freshness of spring, but there is something really sweet to the gentle closing of summer. So many nice things about fall, whether it's mushroom hunting or, I mean, I'm not a sweater guy, but Danielle and Allison are always talking about fall sweaters and how much they love that. But there are things to like about all seasons, and I think we have more beautiful, more expansive lives if we learn how to appreciate those changes and all the different things that they all have to offer. And that's as true of plants as it is in our own lives. And that's one of the things I love about growing plants, is there are so many lessons that you can take and learn accidentally, honestly, from caring for and growing a collection of plants like this, and so many little wisdoms to impart from nature, which I think is just a really special thing that has enriched my life. And I hope by watching these videos, it's enriching your life too. Let's come over and look at the black shear, because I know that's something that everyone loves to look at. I don't think it's changed too much since we checked in last time. Still lots of really dark, beautiful pictures. There are fall ones buried down in here that just starting to come up, and I think they'll probably be like twice as tall. Here's another beautiful sea-grown leek from here. So pinky and white. That one's really gorgeous. That's a baby, so we haven't really seen what that's going to do, but I can tell you right now, that's a fantastic one. Anyways, go home and stare at your own plants, you crazy kids. If you don't have any plants, keep watching these videos. We love hearing your messages, your questions, and interacting with you in general. And keep checking in, because there's always something beautiful here on the farm.